Jasmine Williams clutched her boarding pass with trembling fingers as the flight attendant's voice cut through the crowded airplane like a knife. "You need to deplane immediately," the white woman sneered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Passengers stared as security approached. Just yesterday, Jasmine had been a brilliant but unknown tech entrepreneur. Now, standing in the jetway fighting back tears, she had no idea that in exactly 7 minutes, a call would change everything. How could a single act of discrimination transform into the most incredible revenge story in aviation history? Before we dive into this shocking true story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you believe in justice and standing up against discrimination, hit that like button and subscribe now to see more incredible stories of triumph over adversity. 28-year-old Jasmine Williams had spent the past 3 years developing revolutionary aviation software that could predict maintenance issues before they became safety hazards. As the founder and CEO of SkyTech Solutions, she had poured her life savings, countless sleepless nights, and brilliant mind into creating technology that could potentially save thousands of lives. Today's flight to San Francisco wasn't just another business trip. It represented the culmination of her dreams and sacrifices, a meeting with Platinum Ventures, whose investment could transform her struggling startup into a genuine industry disruptor. Jasmine arrived at the airport 3 hours early, meticulously prepared as always. Her premium economy ticket on Horizon Airlines had cost nearly a month's rent, but the impression it would make on potential investors justified the expense. She wore her most professional attire, a tailored navy suit that projected confidence despite the butterflies in her stomach. As boarding began for Flight 372, Jasmine stood patiently in line, reviewing presentation notes on her tablet. "Group A may now board," announced the gate agent. Jasmine stepped forward with other premium economy passengers, boarding pass ready on her phone. That's when she first encountered Victoria Carlson, the lead flight attendant whose perfectly coiffed blonde hair and frozen smile couldn't mask the immediate disdain in her eyes. "Ticket, please," Victoria said sharply, scrutinizing Jasmine's digital boarding pass while waving through white passengers with barely a glance. "Are you sure you're in Group A?" she questioned, voice laced with skepticism. "Yes, I have premium economy, seat 8C, Jasmine responded politely, pointing to her boarding information. Victoria's tight smile never reached her eyes. "Wait here," she commanded, disappearing to consult with another crew member. After several uncomfortable minutes while other passengers boarded, Victoria returned reluctantly. "Fine, go ahead," she said, as if granting a special favor rather than basic service. On board, Jasmine found her seat and carefully stored her carry-on in the overhead compartment. She noticed Victoria hovering nearby, watching her with suspicious scrutiny not directed at any other passengers. Taking a deep breath, Jasmine reminded herself of what was at stake. One uncomfortable flight was nothing compared to the opportunity awaiting her in San Francisco. As Jasmine settled in, a friendly Asian-American man in his mid-30s took the seat beside her. "Looks like we're neighbors for the next few hours," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Mark Chen, heading to a tech conference." "Jasmine Williams," she replied, grateful for the normal interaction. "I'm meeting with investors about my aviation software company." Their conversation was interrupted by Victoria's sharp voice. "Excuse me, I need to check your seat assignment again," she said, looming over Jasmine while completely ignoring Mark. "I think there might have been a mistake." Jasmine calmly displayed her boarding pass again. "No mistake. This is seat 8C, my assigned seat." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Let me see your ID as well," she demanded, though she hadn't asked any other passengers for such verification. Mark shifted uncomfortably beside them. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "This doesn't concern you, sir," Victoria snapped before turning back to Jasmine. "Your documentation doesn't seem right to me. I need to verify you're in the correct seat." Jasmine felt her heart pounding but maintained her composure, aware of curious glances from surrounding passengers. "My documentation is perfectly valid," she stated firmly, producing her driver's license. "I purchased this ticket legitimately, checked in online, and am sitting in my assigned seat," Victoria took her time examining the ID, comparing it to the boarding pass with exaggerated scrutiny. "Wait here," she ordered again, disappearing toward the front of the plane. "That was weird," Mark whispered. "She didn't ask anyone else for ID verification." "Unfortunately, it's not that unusual for me," Jasmine replied quietly, the familiar weight of discrimination settling on her shoulders, just as she needed to focus on her upcoming presentation. Victoria returned moments later, but this time she wasn't alone. 2 additional flight attendants flanked her, along with the gate agent who had been checking passengers in. The quartet formed an intimidating barrier in the narrow aisle, creating a spectacle that drew all eyes to Jasmine. "Ma'am, there seems to be a serious issue with your ticket," Victoria announced loudly, ensuring nearby passengers could hear every word. "We need you to explain how you obtained this seat." Jasmine felt her face grow hot as dozens of curious eyes turned toward her. "I purchased it directly from the Horizon Airlines website 3 weeks ago," she explained calmly. "I can show you the email confirmation and receipt if necessary." Victoria repeatedly interrupted Jasmine's explanation. "That doesn't match our records," she claimed, though she hadn't consulted any actual system. "Premium economy seats are specifically allocated, and there appears to be a discrepancy." Several passengers had begun filming the interaction on their phones, sensing the tension escalating. Jasmine noticed one elderly white woman nodding along with Victoria, while others looked uncomfortable but remained silent. "I'd like to speak with the captain," Jasmine requested firmly, maintaining her professional demeanor despite the humiliation burning in her chest. Within minutes, Captain Lloyd Richards appeared, his gray hair and authoritative posture commanding immediate respect from the cabin. Without asking for Jasmine's side of the story, he immediately addressed her with condescension. "Ma'am, my flight attendants are reporting that you're being uncooperative and causing a disruption to our boarding process," he stated, standing beside Victoria, who wore a smug expression. "Sir, with all due respect, I've been nothing but cooperative," Jasmine replied, pulling up her email confirmation. "Here's my original booking confirmation, my check-in confirmation, my boarding pass, and my ID. Everything matches and is legitimate." The captain barely glanced at her evidence. "Victoria has been with Horizon for 15 years. If she says there's a problem, there's a problem." "But there isn't a problem with my documentation," Jasmine insisted, struggling to keep her voice steady. "The only problem seems to be—" "Are you suggesting my crew is discriminating against you?" The captain cut her off sharply. "That's a serious accusation," Victoria jumped in. "I believe this boarding pass may be fraudulent. The formatting looks different from our standard passes." Mark Chen could no longer remain silent. "I'm sorry, but I have to say something. I've been watching this whole interaction, and nothing about Ms. Williams's behavior warrants this treatment. She's shown valid documentation multiple times." Victoria's eyes flashed dangerously. "Sir, if you continue to interfere, we can arrange for your removal as well." What would you do if you were in Jasmine's position? Comment number 1 if you think she should stand her ground, or number 2 if you think she should leave quietly to avoid further confrontation. Don't forget to hit the like button if you believe everyone deserves equal treatment when traveling. "Security will escort you from the aircraft," Victoria announced with finality, gesturing toward 2 uniformed officers who had appeared at the cabin entrance. "You're being removed for disruptive behavior." "This is outrageous," Jasmine protested, gathering her belongings with shaking hands. "I've done nothing wrong." "Please exit the aircraft immediately," one security officer stated flatly, leaving no room for argument. As Jasmine walked the gauntlet of staring passengers, some filmed while others averted their eyes. The walk of shame felt endless, her carefully constructed professional image crumbling with each step. Would this humiliating moment become the defining failure that destroyed everything she'd worked for? Or could Jasmine somehow turn this injustice into an opportunity that would change the aviation industry forever? Standing in the cold jetway after being forcibly removed, Jasmine clutched her carry-on bag, fighting back tears that threatened to undo her last shred of dignity. The airplane door had closed behind her with a definitive thunk, leaving her stranded, as the muffled sounds of continuing boarding carried on without her. Everything she had planned so meticulously was unraveling. The Platinum Ventures meeting was scheduled for 3 hours after landing, a timeline now impossible to meet. "You'll need to return to the main terminal," an unsympathetic airport employee informed her. "This is a restricted area once boarding is complete." Jasmine took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and walked with forced composure toward the terminal. At the gate desk, she found Kevin Miller, the harried airport manager, whose name tag gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "I need to speak with someone about what just happened," Jasmine said, her voice remarkably steady despite her internal turmoil. Kevin barely looked up from his computer. "If you were removed from a flight, you'll need to contact customer service. Next available agent is in about 40 minutes. 40 minutes? Jasmine echoed incredulously. "I was just wrongfully removed from my flight without cause. I have an investor meeting that my entire company's future depends on." Kevin sighed, finally meeting her eyes with thinly veiled impatience. "Look, miss, flight crews have final authority on who flies. If they decided you needed to deplane, there must have been a reason." The dismissal was the final straw. Years of similar treatment, of having her credentials questioned, of working twice as hard for half the recognition, crystallized in this moment. Jasmine reached for her phone. "I need to make a call," she said quietly, stepping away from the counter. With trembling fingers, she dialed a number she rarely used, her former professor and mentor, Dr. Eleanor Johnson. The distinguished aerospace engineer had taken Jasmine under her wing during her MIT days, recognizing the brilliant mind that many others overlooked due to unconscious bias. "Eleanor Johnson speaking," came the crisp, authoritative voice. "Dr. Johnson, it's Jasmine. Jasmine Williams. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm in a situation." Her voice cracked slightly as she recounted the humiliating experience. There was a momentary silence on the line before Dr. Johnson spoke. "Which airline did you say? Horizon?" "Yes, Flight 372 to San Francisco." "Stay exactly where you are," Dr. Johnson instructed, her tone shifting to something Jasmine had never heard before. "Do not leave that gate area." Jasmine didn't fully understand the significance of what happened next. What she didn't know, couldn't have known, was that Dr. Eleanor Johnson sat on the board of directors for Global Aviation Partners, the parent company that had acquired Horizon Airlines 3 years prior. Within minutes, Dr. Johnson had contacted Jonathan Pierce, the CEO of Global Aviation Partners, with a brief but impactful message. "We have a serious discrimination situation unfolding at Gate 23 with Horizon. One of my former students, a brilliant, black entrepreneur. This needs your immediate attention." Exactly 7 minutes after Jasmine had been escorted off the plane, the cabin door unexpectedly reopened. The confused passengers watched as the captain himself rushed down the jetway, followed by 2 men in expensive suits whose authoritative presence commanded immediate attention. "Ms. Williams?" called one of the men, spotting Jasmine still standing near the gate desk. "I'm Robert Thompson, Vice President of Operations for Horizon Airlines. This is Samuel Davis, our Chief Customer Officer. We understand there's been an unfortunate misunderstanding." Victoria appeared in the jetway behind them, her face drained of color as she took in the executive presence. "Ms. Williams, we sincerely apologize for this incident," continued Robert. "We'd like to invite you back on board immediately. We've prepared a first-class seat for you, and we assure you this matter will be thoroughly investigated." Victoria stepped forward mechanically. "I was just following protocol for suspected ticket fraud." "That's enough, Victoria," Samuel cut her off sharply. "You're suspended effective immediately pending investigation. Please remove yourself from this aircraft and report to HR." The shock on Victoria's face mirrored Jasmine's own confusion. How had the situation reversed so dramatically in mere minutes? "Dr. Johnson called you," Jasmine realized aloud. Robert nodded discreetly. "We value our relationship with all board members of our parent company. Dr. Johnson spoke highly of you and your contributions to aviation safety technology." For a brief, satisfying moment, Jasmine considered accepting their offer, picturing Victoria's humiliation as she would have to serve her in first class. But something deeper held her back. This wasn't about personal vindication. "Thank you for the offer," Jasmine replied with newfound confidence. "But I'll take the next available flight instead. I would, however, appreciate assistance rebooking and notification to my contacts in San Francisco about the delay." As the executive scrambled to accommodate her requests, Jasmine caught a final glimpse of Victoria being escorted away. The flight attendant's face contorted with resentment. Something in that expression sent a chill down Jasmine's spine, an intuition that this confrontation was far from over. The sleek glass and steel headquarters of Platinum Ventures towered above San Francisco's financial district, reflecting the late afternoon sun as Jasmine's taxi pulled up 3 hours behind schedule. Despite the airline's efforts, a first class seat on the next flight, profuse apologies, and a personal escort through the terminal, she had missed her original meeting slot. Only frantic calls and the understanding of Thomas Davidson's assistant had secured her this late opportunity. "They're waiting for you in the Azure conference room," the receptionist informed her after Jasmine signed in. 12th floor. The elevator ride gave Jasmine precious moments to gather herself. She hadn't slept, had barely eaten, and the stress of the morning's confrontation still lingered in her tense shoulders. Yet somehow, the experience had crystallized her resolve. This wasn't just about securing funding anymore. It was about changing an industry that allowed such discrimination to flourish. Thomas Davidson, Platinum Ventures' founding partner, rose to greet her as she entered. His tall figure and penetrating gaze had earned him a reputation as Silicon Valley's most discerning investor. Behind him sat 4 other committee members, their expressions unreadable. "Ms. Williams, we've heard about your travel difficulties," Thomas said, his handshake firm. "Thank you for making the effort to join us, even at this late hour." "Thank you for your flexibility," Jasmine replied, setting up her presentation. With practiced efficiency, "I believe what I'm about to show you is worth the wait." For the next 20 minutes, Jasmine presented Skytech's predictive maintenance software with passion and precision. Her algorithm could analyze thousands of data points from aircraft sensors to predict potential failures weeks before traditional methods could detect problems. The potential cost savings for airlines were substantial, but the real selling point was safety. "Our projections indicate this system could prevent up to 78% of maintenance-related incidents," Jasmine concluded. "That translates to saving lives." The room remained silent as her presentation ended. Thomas leaned forward, steepling his fingers. "Your technology is impressive, Ms. Williams. Your credentials are impeccable. But frankly, we have concerns about market adoption." "What kind of concerns?" Jasmine asked, maintaining her professional composure. "The aviation industry is notoriously resistant to change," explained one committee member. "They're risk-averse, traditional, and old-fashioned," Jasmine supplied. "Resistant to outsiders, especially those who don't fit their typical profile." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "I was going to say bureaucratic, but you clearly have personal experience with these barriers." Something shifted in Jasmine at that moment. Instead of downplaying the morning's incident as she might have normally done to appear professional, she decided to address it directly. "This morning, I was removed from my flight to this meeting," she began, her voice gaining strength with each word. "Not because of anything I did wrong, but because a flight attendant didn't believe someone who looks like me belonged in a premium seat." The captain backed her without question. The airport manager dismissed my concerns without investigation. The room grew still as the investors listened intently. "That experience is exactly why this industry needs disruption," Jasmine continued. "Not just technological disruption, but cultural disruption. The same resistance to change, the same entrenched biases that led to my removal this morning are costing airlines millions in inefficient maintenance procedures, and more importantly, putting passengers at risk." Thomas Davidson's expression remained inscrutable, but something had changed in the room's atmosphere. Jasmine pressed her advantage. "My software doesn't care what the user looks like. It doesn't make assumptions based on stereotypes. It analyzes data objectively and provides actionable insights that save money and lives. And yes, Implementation will face resistance. I've faced resistance my entire career. But that hasn't stopped me yet. And with your backing, it won't stop this technology from transforming aviation safety. The investment committee exchanged glances. Finally, Thomas spoke. Your passion is evident, Ms. Williams, and your technology shows promise. However, Jasmine's heart sank at that transitional word. We need to see proof of concept in a real-world application before we can commit the full $40 million you're seeking. A pilot program, Jasmine suggested immediately. Thomas nodded. Exactly. Show us this works with one airline, even a small regional carrier, and we'll fund your full expansion. It wasn't the immediate victory she'd hoped for, but it was a pathway forward. As Jasmine packed up her materials, Thomas approached her privately. That incident on your flight today, he said quietly. It's all over social media. Jasmine froze. What? Thomas showed her his phone. There on the screen was a video titled, Black Entrepreneur Kicked Off Flight for Sitting in Her Assigned Seat. It already had over 50,000 views and was climbing rapidly. Several passengers filmed it, Thomas explained. The comment section is illuminating. Horizon Airlines is facing significant backlash. Jasmine stared at the screen, watching the humiliating moment from multiple angles. Her professional composure contrasted sharply with Victoria's aggressive stance. The comment section overflowed with outrage on her behalf, calls for boycotts, and shared stories of similar experiences. This could complicate your relationship with airlines, Thomas warned, or it could give you leverage. How you handle this may determine whether you can secure that pilot program we discussed. As Jasmine left the building, notifications flooded her phone. News outlets requesting interviews. Social media mentions multiplying by the minute. And an email from Horizon Airlines' PR department requesting an amicable resolution discussion. What she couldn't see was Victoria Carlson in the Horizon Airlines break room, watching the same viral video with growing rage, already plotting how to make Jasmine Williams pay for her public humiliation and suspension. 1 week after the viral incident, Jasmine sat in her small office watching Horizon Airlines' official statement play on her computer screen. Victoria Carlson, now dressed in a conservative suit rather than her flight attendant uniform, spoke with practiced sincerity to a sympathetic news anchor. As aviation professionals, our primary concern is always passenger safety, Victoria explained, her expression solemn. What the viral video doesn't show is Ms. Williams' aggressive behavior prior to filming. She repeatedly refused to comply with standard verification procedures and became confrontational when asked simple questions. The anchor nodded gravely. So you're saying the video only captures part of the story? Exactly, Victoria replied. It's unfortunate that in today's social media environment, airline staff are increasingly targeted by passengers looking to create viral moments. These edited clips don't show the full context of difficult situations we face daily. Jasmine muted the video, her stomach churning with disbelief and anger. The company had released their own edited footage from cabin cameras that conveniently began mid-conversation, making it appear as though Jasmine was being uncooperative. The narrative was shifting before her eyes, transforming her from victim to troublemaker. Her phone rang. It was Lisa, her one part-time employee who handled marketing and communications. Jasmine, have you seen the comments on our company page? People are posting horrible things. They're calling you a fraud and attention seeker. Jasmine opened their company's social media accounts to find hundreds of negative comments, many using barely veiled racist language and accusations. A coordinated attack was underway, and it wasn't just on social media. Several potential airline partners who had expressed interest after the viral video had suddenly gone silent. 2 had explicitly withdrawn their interest, citing concerns about company leadership. They're trying to destroy my reputation, Jasmine realized aloud. Without my credibility, the software means nothing. Just then, an email notification appeared from Brandon Montgomery, CEO of Horizon Airlines. The subject line read, Settlement Proposal Confidential. Opening it, Jasmine found a surprisingly generous offer. $150,000 in compensation for her inconvenience, with the stipulation that she sign a non-disclosure agreement and issue a joint statement acknowledging A mutual misunderstanding. What would you do in Jasmine's position? Comment number 1 if you would take the money and move on, or number 2 if you would reject the settlement and keep fighting. Hit that like button if you believe standing up against injustice is always worth the cost, and subscribe to see more stories of underestimated people rising above discrimination. Before Jasmine could fully process the email, her phone chimed, with a text from an unknown number. I have the unedited video from the plane. This isn't the first time Victoria has done this. Call me, Mark Chen. With trembling fingers, Jasmine called the number. Mark answered immediately. I've been trying to reach you, he said, his voice hushed. After what happened, I started asking questions among Horizon staff. Victoria has a history of passenger profiling. The company knows about it but has covered it up repeatedly. Why are you telling me this? Jasmine asked. You could lose your job. I already did, Mark replied bitterly. I was fired yesterday for discussing company matters with outsiders. But before I left, I downloaded the complete unedited video from the plane's security system. It clearly shows Victoria targeting you from the moment you boarded, while ignoring identical verification processes for white passengers. That footage could change everything, Jasmine breathed. There's more, Mark continued. Victoria isn't just a random flight attendant with prejudice. She's been dating Brandon Montgomery, Horizon's CEO, for the past 2 years. They've kept it quiet, but it's common knowledge among senior staff. That's why she's never faced consequences and why the company is working so hard to discredit you now. As Jasmine processed this revelation, another email arrived, this one from Thomas Davidson at Platinum Ventures. Growing concerns about recent publicity. Need to discuss impact on potential investment. Call ASAP. The walls were closing in. The airline was systematically dismantling her credibility while dangling a settlement that would silence her permanently. Her potential investors were getting cold feet, and somewhere in her inbox were 3 death threats that had grown explicit enough that she'd had to file a police report. Yet now she had something they didn't expect. Evidence of a pattern of discrimination and a personal connection between Victoria and the CEO that explained the company's aggressive response. The question wasn't whether to fight back anymore, but how to do it effectively when facing an opponent with vastly more resources and power. Could Jasmine turn this corporate counterattack into the catalyst that would ultimately lead to her owning the very airline that had humiliated her? 3 days later, Jasmine sat in the elegantly appointed office of Alicia Washington, one of the country's most respected civil rights attorneys. The lawyer's impressive credentials were evident from the awards lining her walls and the numerous case victories documented in framed newspaper headlines. They're offering you hush money, Alicia stated flatly after reviewing Horizon's settlement offer, and a pathetically small amount considering the potential damages. I'm not interested in money, Jasmine replied. I want accountability and change. Alicia leaned forward, studying Jasmine intently. You should know that since your video went viral, my office has received 17 calls from minority passengers who experienced similar treatment on Horizon flights. One woman was removed because she didn't look like a first-class passenger. An Indian doctor was asked to verify his credentials when offering medical assistance during an emergency. A Latino executive was accused of having a fraudulent ticket. A pattern, Jasmine observed. Exactly. And with Mark Chen's footage showing disparate treatment of passengers based on race, plus evidence of the CEO's relationship with Victoria creating a conflict of interest in handling your case, Alicia smiled for the first time. We could have grounds for a class action lawsuit alleging systematic discrimination that would force discovery of their internal communications and policies. As they discussed legal strategy, Jasmine's phone rang. It was Dr. Eleanor Johnson. I hope I'm not interrupting, Dr. Johnson said when Jasmine answered. But I've arranged a meeting you might want to attend. Tomorrow at 10 with Cameron Wilson, CEO of Liberty Airways. Liberty Airways was a mid-sized carrier, Horizon's directee. Competitor on several key routes. The implications were obvious. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Jasmine asked carefully. I'm suggesting you bring your software presentation and let your work speak for itself, Dr. Johnson replied diplomatically. Cameron has been looking for a competitive edge, and your technology could provide it. The recent publicity has made many in the industry aware of your innovation." The following morning, dressed in her most impressive suit, Jasmine presented her predictive maintenance software to Cameron Wilson and his executive team. Unlike her meeting with Platinum Ventures, this audience leaned forward with immediate interest. "If these efficiency projections are accurate," Cameron said, "this could reduce our maintenance costs by 23% while improving safety metrics." "They're accurate," Jasmine confirmed. "All we need is a trial implementation on a limited fleet to prove it." By the meeting's end, they had outlined terms for a pilot program. Liberty Airways would implement Jasmine's software on 10 aircraft for a 3-month trial. If successful, they would expand to their entire fleet and become SkyTech's flagship client. Exactly the validation Thomas Davidson had required for full investment. As Jasmine left Liberty Airways headquarters, her phone buzzed with an urgent text from Mark Chen. "Emergency, Victoria and Brandon trying to hack your system. Got insider info. Call now." When she reached Mark, his voice was tense with urgency. "One of my contacts at Horizon says Brandon authorized their cybersecurity team to access your company systems. They're looking for your software code. Planning to claim you stole proprietary Horizon technology." "That's ridiculous. I developed this independently," Jasmine protested. "They don't care about the truth. They want to discredit you and your technology before you can partner with Liberty. They're desperate." That night, Horizon's tech team breached SkyTech's development server despite Jasmine's best security measures. What they didn't realize was that Jasmine, anticipating something like this after Mark's warning, had planted a decoy codebase. One that looked impressive but contained subtle, deliberate flaws that would be obvious to any expert examining it. Meanwhile, she had transferred the actual software to a secure server provided by Liberty Airways as part of their new partnership agreement. When Horizon eventually claimed they had evidence Jasmine had stolen their proprietary algorithms, they would be revealing their illegal breach and exposing the flawed code as their own proprietary technology. As dawn broke, Jasmine received confirmation from Liberty Airways. They were ready to begin the pilot program immediately, accelerating their original timeline. The chess game had shifted dramatically. While Horizon focused on discrediting what Jasmine had already created, she was moving forward with implementation that would prove her technology's value beyond any doubt. What neither Victoria nor Brandon realized was that their increasingly desperate tactics were providing Jasmine and Alicia with additional evidence for their class action lawsuit, evidence that would eventually expose not just individual instances of discrimination, but a corporate culture that enabled and protected it, all the way to the highest levels of leadership. "SkyTech software poses major safety risk," blared the headline on the Aviation Industry Today website. The article quoted anonymous industry experts, claiming that Jasmine's predictive maintenance software used untested algorithms that could potentially override critical safety systems. It was the 5th such story in 3 days, all using similar language and all lacking specific technical details. The timing wasn't coincidental. The articles appeared exactly as Liberty Airways began installing SkyTech's software on their test fleet. "They're trying to trigger a regulatory investigation," Jasmine explained to Thomas Davidson during an emergency video call. "If the Transportation Safety Administration gets involved, it could delay our implementation for months while, they investigate claims that have no basis in reality." Thomas looked concerned. "These allegations are serious, Jasmine. Is there any possibility your software could have the issues they're describing?" "None," she replied firmly. "The software doesn't override any systems. It analyzes data from existing sensors to identify patterns that predict potential failures. It's a diagnostic tool, not a control system." Nevertheless, the damage was being done. The Transportation Safety Administration had indeed initiated a preliminary investigation, requesting extensive documentation from SkyTech. Each day of delay benefited Horizon while draining Jasmine's limited resources. Meanwhile, Victoria Carlson had been promoted to Customer Service Director at Horizon Airlines, a move that puzzled industry observers given her recent suspension. In her new role, she spearheaded a passenger verification initiative that supposedly enhanced security but in practice created additional barriers for minority passengers. Mark Chen, who had been providing Jasmine with crucial insider information, found himself blacklisted from the aviation industry. Despite his outstanding qualifications, no airline would hire him following unexplained professional reference concerns whenever Horizon was contacted. Jasmine's financial situation grew increasingly dire. Legal fees for fighting the regulatory investigation were mounting, and Platinum Ventures had put their potential investment on hold pending resolution of the safety concerns. Her small office now doubled as her living space, as she had given up her apartment to conserve funds. "We're 3 weeks away from complete bankruptcy," she admitted to Alicia Washington during their weekly strategy call. "If the TSA investigation isn't resolved by then, I'll have to shut down, regardless of the merit of our case." That evening, as Jasmine worked late reviewing legal documents, she received an unexpected call from an unidentified number. "Is this Jasmine Williams?" asked a nervous male voice. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is David Patel. I'm a maintenance supervisor at Horizon Airlines. We've never met, but I need to talk to you about something important. Not over the phone. Can we meet?" The following morning, Jasmine sat across from David in a quiet coffee shop miles from any Horizon facility. His nervous eyes continuously scanned the room as he pulled a thumb drive from his pocket. "I've worked at Horizon for 11 years, he began quietly. "In the past 2 years, since Brandon Montgomery became CEO, there's been increasing pressure to cut corners on maintenance protocols. Some of us have raised concerns internally, but anyone who speaks up gets reassigned or forced out." He slid the thumb drive across the table. "This contains maintenance logs showing systematic falsification of safety records, mandatory inspections that never happened but were signed off on, replacement parts being certified when they actually failed testing, and there's more." David's voice dropped even lower. "Victoria Carlson's new passenger verification initiative? I found internal documents showing it's explicitly designed to allow staff to remove passengers using subjective criteria. There's even a rating system for how likely different types of passengers are to cause disruptions, based entirely on racial and ethnic profiles." Jasmine stared at the thumb drive, realizing its explosive potential. "Why are you giving this to me?" David's eyes finally met hers. "Because last month a close call on Flight 2378 should have been a wake-up call about the maintenance issues, but it was covered up instead. Next time people could die. And because what happened to you on that plane, it's happening every day. The whole system is corrupt." With the whistleblower's evidence in hand, Jasmine and Alicia brought their findings to the Transportation Safety Board. The regulatory investigation immediately shifted focus from SkyTech's software to Horizon's falsified safety records. During her testimony before the board, Jasmine presented clear evidence of both maintenance fraud and systematic discrimination, including recorded conversations where Victoria discussed passenger profiling as company strategy. "The technologies we develop are only as ethical as the people and companies implementing them," Jasmine concluded. "My software was designed to strengthen safety protocols, but Horizon Airlines has demonstrated a pattern of deliberately circumventing such protocols, while creating a culture of discrimination that endangers both passengers and employees who speak out." As Jasmine left the hearing, breaking news alerts flashed across her phone. Horizon Airlines stock had plummeted 27% following her testimony. Multiple board members were calling for Brandon Montgomery's resignation, and the Transportation Authority had suspended Victoria Carlson's aviation credentials pending further investigation. For the first time in months, Jasmine allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. Liberty Airways' pilot program was showing promising initial results. Platinum Ventures had reached out to resume investment discussions. The class action lawsuit was gaining more plaintiffs every day. Yet even as things appeared to be turning in her favor, Jasmine remained vigilant. Victoria Carlson had been seen clearing out her office at Horizon headquarters, reportedly destroying documents despite explicit preservation orders from regulators. Brandon Montgomery had made no public appearances, but was rumored to be rallying supporters on the board. The battle was far from over, and the most dangerous opponents were those with nothing left to lose. The Transportation Safety Board hearing room buzzed with tension as journalists, aviation industry representatives, and members of the public packed every available seat. At the center of attention sat Jasmine Williams, poised and focused despite the surrounding chaos and the knowledge that her testimony today could determine not just her company's future, but potentially the direction of the entire industry. "Ms. Williams," began Chairwoman Patricia Rodriguez, "you've presented extensive documentation alleging both safety violations and discriminatory practices at Horizon Airlines. We've reviewed these materials, but for the public record, please summarize the key issues." Jasmine leaned toward the microphone. "The evidence shows two interconnected problems. First, systematic falsification of maintenance records putting passenger safety at risk. Second, formalized policies enabling discrimination against minority passengers, disguised as security protocols. Both issues stem from leadership decisions prioritizing cost-cutting and personal biases over safety and equal treatment." Brandon Montgomery sat with his legal team across the room, his expression carefully neutral, though his tightly clenched jaw betrayed his tension. Victoria Carlson was noticeably absent, having been advised by counsel not to appear after her credentials were suspended. "That's preposterous," countered Montgomery when given his opportunity to respond. "Ms. Williams is a disgruntled passenger who has orchestrated an elaborate revenge campaign after a routine security incident. Her so-called evidence comes from disgruntled former employees with personal vendettas. Horizon Airlines has an impeccable safety record and a diverse, inclusive culture. Throughout the day, witnesses from both sides presented conflicting narratives. Horizon executives dismissed the evidence as fabricated or taken out of context. Former employees and passengers shared experiences supporting Jasmine's claims. Technical experts debated the implications of the falsified maintenance logs. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Dr. Eleanor Johnson leveraged her position on Global Aviation Partners Board to initiate an internal investigation of Horizon's practices. The parent company, concerned about reputational damage spreading to their other aviation holdings, began quietly distancing themselves from Horizon's leadership. At Liberty Airways, the implementation of Jasmine's software was yielding impressive results. After just 6 weeks, the system had correctly predicted 3 maintenance issues before they manifested as operational problems, saving an estimated $1.2 million in potential repair costs and avoiding service disruptions. "The data is exceeding our expectations," Cameron Wilson informed Jasmine during a brief recess in the hearings. "We're prepared to expand implementation to our entire fleet ahead of schedule and increase our initial contract substantially." This news reached Thomas Davidson, who contacted Jasmine with a revised investment proposal. "Platinum Ventures is prepared to commit $60 million, $20 million more than your original request, given the proven market validation and growth potential demonstrated by the Liberty Airways implementation." As Jasmine's professional prospects improved, the regulatory scrutiny on Horizon intensified. Following the third day of hearings, the Transportation Authority announced unprecedented measures. Victoria Carlson's aviation credentials were permanently revoked based on documented evidence of discriminatory practices and retaliatory actions against employees who raised concerns. Have you ever witnessed discrimination but struggled with whether to speak up? Comment number 1 if you've ever found yourself in a situation where standing up for what's right felt risky, or number 2 if you've been personally affected by discrimination in a professional setting. Hit the like button if you believe in the power of persistence against systems designed to protect those in power, and subscribe for more stories of justice prevailing against incredible odds. The announcement sent shockwaves through the aviation community. Credential revocation was extremely rare, typically reserved for serious safety violations rather than discriminatory behavior. The precedent suggested that discrimination itself was being recognized as a safety issue, exactly the connection Jasmine had been arguing for months. Horizon Airlines stock, already weakened, plummeted further. Board members began publicly calling for Montgomery's resignation. Global Aviation. Partners issued a statement announcing a comprehensive audit of all Horizon operations and leadership decisions. Victoria, despite legal advice to maintain a low profile, gave an unauthorized interview to a sympathetic conservative commentator, claiming she was being sacrificed to appease the woke mob. Her comments, particularly her dismissal of discrimination, concerns as playing the race card, only strengthened the case against Horizon's toxic culture. As the hearings concluded, Chairwoman Rodriguez addressed the packed room. Based on the substantial evidence presented, this board has determined that Horizon Airlines violated multiple safety regulations through falsification of maintenance records. Additionally, we find credible evidence of discriminatory practices embedded in company policies. We are referring criminal charges to the Department of Justice for further investigation and imposing the maximum civil penalties allowed by law. Outside the hearing room, journalists swarmed Jasmine for comment. With Alicia Washington at her side, she offered a measured response. Today's decision confirms what we've maintained from the beginning, that passenger safety and equal treatment are inseparable values in modern aviation. This isn't about one incident or one airline, but about setting industry standards that protect everyone. What the cameras didn't capture was Brandon Montgomery in the parking garage, frantically calling Victoria despite their attorney's warnings against contact. "They're going to make me the scapegoat," he hissed into the phone. "We need to control the narrative. What if we pin the maintenance issues on the technical team and claim we had no knowledge?" Victoria's response was chilling. "Too late for that. If I'm going down, I'm not going alone. Remember our contingency plan? It's time to use it." As Jasmine celebrated the regulatory victory with her growing team, she remained unaware that Victoria was already implementing a desperate last stand, one that would target not just Jasmine's reputation, but the safety of an actual flight, using a corrupted version of Jasmine's own software architecture to create a crisis that would be blamed on SkyTech. The question wasn't whether Victoria would strike back, but how many innocent people might be endangered when she did. The courthouse steps provided a dramatic backdrop as Alicia Washington addressed the assembled press corps, her voice carrying over the clicking cameras. Today's ruling represents a landmark decision in the fight against corporate discrimination. The court has awarded our clients $27 million in damages, acknowledging the systematic nature of the discrimination perpetrated by Horizon Airlines against minority passengers. Jasmine stood slightly behind her attorney, maintaining a composed expression despite the momentous victory. The class action lawsuit had grown to include 64 plaintiffs, each with documented experiences of discrimination aboard Horizon flights. The judge's ruling had been unequivocal, finding a pervasive pattern of discriminatory practices enabled and encouraged by leadership. Yet the victory felt hollow as Jasmine checked her company's financial statements on her phone. Despite the legal triumph, SkyTech Solutions faced a critical cash flow problem. The prolonged battle had depleted her resources, and Horizon's parent company had already announced their intention to appeal the ruling, potentially tying up the settlement money for years. Back at her office, now staffed with a small but dedicated team, Jasmine faced difficult decisions. "The runway is getting shorter," she explained to her operations director. "Liberty Airways is expanding their implementation, but we need more clients immediately to meet payroll next month." Thomas Davidson's investment had been structured in stages, with the full $60 million contingent on meeting aggressive growth metrics. While the first $15 million had kept them afloat during the legal battle, the remaining funds remained tantalizingly out of reach until they secured additional airline clients. "I might have good news on that front," said Lisa, now promoted to Director of Business Development. "Southwest Regional is interested in a pilot program. Their maintenance director saw the results from Liberty and wants to meet next week." The potential new client provided a glimmer of hope, but the persistent shadow of Horizon Airlines continued to loom over SkyTech's prospects. Despite her court-ordered demotion, Victoria Carlson remained employed in Horizon's corporate office, relegated to a nebulous special projects role, while Brandon Montgomery fought to keep his position as CEO. Jasmine's phone rang, Thomas Davidson calling. "I've been reviewing the quarterly projections," he began without preamble. "The numbers aren't where they need to be for the next round of funding." "We're close, Thomas," Jasmine argued. "Liberty's implementation is exceeding expectations, and we have strong interest from Southwest Regional." "Interest doesn't convert to revenue quickly enough in this industry," Thomas replied. "And frankly, I'm concerned about the continued battle with Horizon. Every time we seem to make progress, some new obstacle appears. Potential clients are hesitant to partner with a company under such sustained attack." The implication was clear. Platinum Ventures was reconsidering their commitment. As Jasmine ended the call, promising updated projections, another crisis emerged. Mark Chen burst into her office, his face pale. "Turn on the news," he urged, grabbing the remote for the office television. The screen filled with breaking news. Emergency landing at O'Hare. Horizon Flight 247 experiences critical system failure. The ticker below reported all passengers safe but described a terrifying mid-air incident when multiple systems allegedly malfunctioned simultaneously. "This doesn't make sense," Mark said. "That's a brand new Boeing with redundant safety systems." Jasmine's phone exploded with notifications, reporters seeking comment, concerned messages from Liberty Airways, and a terse email from Thomas Davidson. "Need to discuss implications immediately." Within hours, Brandon Montgomery held a press conference, his expression appropriately grave. Preliminary investigation indicates the emergency resulted from corrupted maintenance software similar to the system recently promoted by SkyTech Solutions. While we have not implemented this technology, our technical team believes the emergency was triggered by unauthorized access to our systems, potentially as industrial sabotage. Jasmine watched in horror as Montgomery carefully avoided directly accusing her while making the connection obvious to anyone paying attention. The implication was clear. SkyTech had sabotaged Horizon's systems in retaliation for the discrimination case. "This is insane," Jasmine told Alicia during an emergency consultation. "We've never had access to their systems. Our software isn't even compatible with their platform, without significant modification." "They're desperate," Alicia replied. "The discrimination case damaged their reputation, and Montgomery's position is precarious. They're creating a diversion and trying to discredit you simultaneously. But the damage was already spreading." By evening, Liberty Airways had contacted Jasmine about temporarily pausing further implementation pending investigation. Southwest Regional had canceled their upcoming meeting. And most devastating, an email arrived from Thomas Davidson. In Twitter, light of recent developments, Platinum Ventures is suspending further investment disbursements. As Jasmine absorbed these blows, a final piece of news arrived that threatened to break her resilience. Dr. Eleanor Johnson, her steadfast mentor and advocate, had been hospitalized with advanced stage pancreatic cancer. Her prognosis was poor, months, not years. The woman who had been Jasmine's strongest ally throughout the battle would soon be unable to help. Sitting alone in her office as midnight approached, Jasmine faced the darkest moment of her journey. The legal victory had cost her nearly everything. Her company teetered on bankruptcy, her mentor was dying, and Victoria Carlson, despite everything, had engineered yet another attack that threatened to destroy everything Jasmine had built. The question wasn't whether Jasmine would fight back, but whether she had enough resources left for one final stand. Global Aviation Partners' quarterly earnings call revealed what industry insiders had been speculating for weeks. Jonathan Pierce, CEO of the parent company, spoke with calculated precision to nervous shareholders. Following continued performance issues and significant legal liabilities, we're conducting a strategic review of our Horizon Airlines subsidiary. Multiple options are being considered, including restructuring, partial divestiture, or complete sale of the asset. In corporate speak, this amounted to hanging a for sale sign on the troubled airline. Years of mismanagement culminating in the discrimination lawsuit had transformed what was once a profitable regional carrier into a financial liability that threatened to drag down the parent company's stock price. Jasmine listened to the earnings call from her apartment, having downsized the office to cut costs. The announcement triggered an idea so audacious it seemed impossible at first glance. Yet the more she considered it, the more viable it became. "They're selling Horizon," she explained to Mark Chen over coffee the next morning. "What if we bought it?" Mark nearly choked on his drink. "With what money? We're barely making payroll." "Not with our current resources," Jasmine acknowledged. "But with the right investors, structured as a leveraged buyout with the discrimination settlement as part of the financing." She spread her notes across the table. Preliminary calculations, potential ownership structures, and a comprehensive plan to transform Horizon using SkyTech's technologies as the foundation for a complete operational overhaul. "This isn't just about revenge," she continued. "It's the perfect test case for our entire platform. We take a struggling airline with documented safety and culture problems, implement our systems from top to bottom, and demonstrate the impact on performance, safety, and inclusivity." Mark studied the figures, his initial skepticism giving way to cautious interest. Thomas Davidson would never back something this risky. "Maybe not alone," Jasmine agreed, "but as part of a consortium, if we can show them it's not just viable but potentially revolutionary." That afternoon, Jasmine called Thomas, requesting an urgent meeting not as a struggling founder seeking additional funding, but as a strategic partner with an unexpected opportunity. Meanwhile, at Horizon headquarters, Victoria Carlson slipped into Brandon Montgomery's office, closing the door behind her. "Did you hear? They're shopping us around to potential buyers." Montgomery nodded grimly. "Pierce made it clear I have 60 days to find a buyer, or they'll break up the company and sell it for parts. 11,000 jobs at stake, and they don't care." "What about our plan?" Victoria asked. "The safety incident wasn't enough to sink Williams completely." "Because we couldn't directly link her to it," Montgomery replied. "But we have something better now. Desperation. She's running out of money and options. If she gets aggressive, makes a mistake, we can finish this once and for all." What neither of them realized was that a former Horizon IT specialist had documented their conversation about the falsified emergency landing. The whistleblower, concerned about passenger safety, had already forwarded evidence to both federal investigators and Jasmine's legal team, proving the critical system failure had been deliberately engineered. 3 days later, Jasmine sat across from Thomas Davidson in Platinum Ventures' sleek conference room, outlining her audacious proposal. "You want to buy the very airline that tried to destroy you?" Thomas summarized, his expression incredulous yet intrigued. "That's either brilliant or insane. Sometimes the line between the two is success," Jasmine replied. "Horizon's current valuation is at a historical low. Their routes are valuable, their fleet is largely modern, and their fundamental problem isn't the business model, it's the leadership and culture." Thomas studied the detailed prospectus she'd prepared. "You're proposing a complete digital transformation using your software platform as the core. Predictive maintenance across the fleet, algorithmic crew scheduling, dynamic pricing optimization, plus a complete cultural reset," Jasmine added. "Mandatory anti-bias training, revised passenger interaction protocols, transparent complaint resolution processes. We remake the airline from the ground up as the industry's most innovative and inclusive carrier." "The capital requirements are substantial," Thomas noted, flipping through the financial projections. "Substantially less than starting an airline from scratch," Jasmine countered. "And with the discrimination settlement potentially convertible to equity in the new structure, plus Liberty Airways' documented cost savings using our systems, the numbers work." Thomas leaned back, a familiar gleam in his eye that Jasmine recognized from their first meeting, the look of an investor seeing opportunity where others saw only risk. "You'd need partners. Platinum couldn't underwrite this alone." "I'm not asking you to," Jasmine replied. "I'm asking you to lead a consortium of like-minded investors who recognize both the financial opportunity and the chance to transform an industry that has resisted change for decades." As Thomas began making calls to potential co-investors, Brandon Montgomery learned of Jasmine's interest in acquiring Horizon. His reaction was immediate and visceral. "She wants to buy us? After everything?" he fumed to Victoria. "This has to be about revenge." "Or she sees value we've been destroying," Victoria suggested. "Either way, we need to make sure it never happens. If she gained control, we'd both be finished." Brandon completed the thought. "Start reaching out to our contacts, spread concerns about her ability to run an airline, question her experience, suggest she'd gut the company for parts. We need to tank her acquisition bid before it gains traction." Within days, industry publications featured quotes from anonymous Horizon executives expressing alarm about SkyTech's interest, claiming Jasmine planned massive layoffs and route cancellations. The whisper campaign expanded to potential investors, with carefully worded insinuations about her temperament and leadership capabilities. What Victoria and Brandon couldn't anticipate was that their desperate tactics had created yet another whistleblower, Horizon's chief financial officer, alarmed by their increasingly erratic behavior and concerned about potential securities violations in how they were representing the company's financial condition to potential buyers. As Global Aviation Partners called an extraordinary board meeting to review acquisition proposals, including Jasmine's consortium bid, the stage was set for a final confrontation that would determine not just Horizon's future, but the fundamental direction of an industry long resistant to both technological and cultural change. The offices of Global Aviation Partners hummed with tension as security escorted Jasmine and her team through the executive floor. The boardroom doors opened to reveal 20 people seated around a massive table, expressions ranging from curious to openly hostile. Jonathan Pierce, CEO of the parent company, nodded in greeting while Brandon Montgomery glared from the opposite end. Victoria Carlson conspicuously positioned beside him despite having no official role in the proceedings. Ms. Williams, your acquisition proposal has generated significant discussion, Pierce began diplomatically. Today's meeting allows board members to address questions directly before voting on the various offers we've received. Thomas Davidson sat beside Jasmine, lending the gravitas of Platinum Ventures to her presentation. They had assembled an impressive coalition: 4 venture capital firms specializing in transportation technology, 2 socially conscious investment funds, and a sovereign wealth fund interested in aviation innovation. Collectively, they controlled enough capital to make a credible offer for Horizon Airlines in its diminished state. As Jasmine outlined her vision for transforming the troubled airline, she noticed Brandon constantly whispering to board members seated near him, passing notes and making dismissive gestures. Victoria maintained a frozen smile that never reached her eyes, occasionally nodding encouragement to Brandon. "Your technology platform is impressive on paper," said one board member after Jasmine's presentation, "but implementing across an entire airline involves considerable risk. What makes you qualified to manage this transition?" Before Jasmine could respond, Brandon interjected, "That's precisely the concern my team has raised. Ms. Williams has never run an airline. She's a software developer with a personal vendetta against Horizon. I'm not proposing to run the airline alone," Jasmine clarified calmly. "Our leadership plan includes experienced aviation executives, including former JetBlue COO Michael Torres, who would serve as president of operations. My role would focus on technology implementation and cultural transformation." "Cultural transformation," Victoria repeated with barely disguised contempt. "A euphemism for firing loyal employees who don't subscribe to certain ideologies." The tension escalated as Brandon presented his counter-proposal, a management buyout that would keep the current leadership team intact while implementing moderate reforms to address the issues highlighted in the discrimination lawsuit. His presentation emphasized continuity and stability over the risky, untested approach proposed by Jasmine's consortium. During a brief recess, Jasmine overheard Victoria in heated conversation with a board member. "She'll destroy everything we've built. This is purely about revenge. She's already planning to eliminate entire departments." The misinformation campaign was more aggressive than Jasmine had anticipated, with Victoria and Brandon clearly working to undermine her credibility. Through direct board lobbying, as the meeting reconvened, the atmosphere had shifted perceptibly against her proposal. Then came the unexpected turning point. Jonathan Pierce cleared his throat. "Before we continue, I must inform the board that we've received concerning information regarding Horizon's current leadership." He nodded to his assistant, who distributed sealed folders to each board member. "These documents, verified by our legal team, detail systematic misrepresentation of Horizon's financial condition under Mr. Montgomery's leadership. Additionally, they contain evidence that the emergency landing incident last month was deliberately engineered to damage Ms. Williams's company. Most troubling are communications indicating Mr. Montgomery and Ms. Carlson conspired to destroy company documents, subject to legal hold in the discrimination case." The room fell silent as board members reviewed the explosive contents. Brandon's face drained of color. Victoria's hand trembled visibly as she reached for her water glass. "This is absurd," Brandon finally sputtered. "These allegations are completely fabricated. This is Williams manipulating the situation again." "The documents came from your chief financial officer," Pierce replied evenly. and have been independently verified by our forensic accounting team. Victoria suddenly stood, her composure cracking. This entire process has been biased from the start. You've all been manipulated by her sob story and social media campaign. She's not qualified to run a lemonade stand, let alone an airline. As security moved toward Victoria, she grabbed her tablet and hurled it across the table. You have no idea what she'll do to this company. She'll destroy everything we've built. The outburst shocked the boardroom into silence. As Victoria was escorted out, Brandon attempted to salvage the situation, distancing himself from her actions and claiming ignorance of any wrongdoing. But the damage was irreparable. His already tenuous position had collapsed entirely. The board meeting adjourned with a promise to vote on the acquisition proposals within 48 hours. As Jasmine and her team departed, Thomas turned to her. That went better than expected, though not exactly how we planned. They were more desperate than I realized, Jasmine observed. They knew this was their last stand. Later that evening, as Jasmine reviewed last-minute adjustments to their proposal, an urgent security alert came from Horizon headquarters. Surveillance cameras had captured Victoria entering the server room after hours, using Brandon's access credentials. IT security had detected attempts to delete massive amounts of data, maintenance records, personnel files, and financial documentation that would be critical during any ownership transition. The final vote came faster than anticipated. With Brandon suspended pending investigation and Victoria facing potential criminal charges for evidence tampering, the board voted overwhelmingly to accept Jasmine's acquisition proposal. The terms included maintaining most frontline jobs while restructuring leadership, implementing SkyTech's full technology platform, and converting part of the discrimination settlement into equity stakes for affected employees. Thomas Davidson called with the news as Jasmine sat beside Dr. Eleanor Johnson's hospital bed. Congratulations, Jasmine. The board approved our offer 20 minutes ago. Pending regulatory approval, you'll soon own the airline that kicked you off a plane. As Jasmine shared the news with her weakened mentor, Dr. Johnson's tired eyes brightened. You didn't just win, Jasmine. You changed the game entirely. 7 minutes had stretched into 7 months, but Jasmine Williams had accomplished what once seemed impossible, transforming a moment of humiliation into a platform for revolutionary change. The Horizon Airlines headquarters lobby had been transformed. Gone was the sterile corporate atmosphere with its beige walls and outdated logo. In its place stood a vibrant space filled with natural light, interactive digital displays showing real-time flight information, and most notably, a massive wall featuring photographs and stories of employees from diverse backgrounds who had shaped the company's new direction. Jasmine Williams walked through the front doors exactly 7 months after the acquisition had been finalized. Despite now owning the company, she still felt a momentary flutter of anxiety, the ghost of that humiliating experience aboard Flight 372. But today wasn't about the past. It was about the future she had fought so hard to create. Staff members greeted her with a mixture of curiosity and cautious respect. Many had feared mass layoffs following the acquisition, but Jasmine had kept her promise to preserve frontline jobs while restructuring leadership. The uncertainty of transition was giving way to cautious optimism as employees witnessed the changes firsthand. In the executive suite, Mark Chen waited with the morning briefing. His appointment as Chief Operating Officer had raised eyebrows in the industry, but his background in both technology and aviation made him the perfect partner in Jasmine's transformation vision. The integration of our predictive maintenance platform is 70% complete, Mark reported. Early metrics show a 28% reduction in unscheduled maintenance events and a 12% improvement in on-time performance. And the culture initiatives? Jasmine asked, knowing that technological change was meaningless without addressing the underlying issues that had allowed discrimination to flourish. The new passenger interaction protocols have been implemented across all routes. Customer satisfaction scores are trending upward, especially among minority passengers. Complaints about discriminatory treatment are down 92%. These achievements had not come easily. The transition had been turbulent, with resistance from entrenched middle managers who viewed diversity initiatives as unnecessary distractions. Several had resigned rather than adapt to the new culture. But those who remained were beginning to see the business benefits of inclusion, happier employees, more satisfied customers, and a steadily improving reputation. As Jasmine reviewed the morning reports, a security alert appeared on her tablet. Surveillance cameras had detected Victoria Carlson attempting to enter the building using an expired credential. Security had intercepted her at the lobby checkpoint. "She's been trying to get in for 20 minutes, the security director explained via video call. "Claims she needs to retrieve personal items, but she cleared out her office months ago. Should we involve police?" Jasmine considered the question carefully. Victoria's actions following the acquisition had grown increasingly erratic. After facing criminal charges for evidence tampering, she had narrowly avoided prison through a plea agreement that included community service working with discrimination victims, an ironic sentence that seemed to have only intensified her resentment. "No police," Jasmine decided. "I'll speak with her." Minutes later, Jasmine entered a small conference room where Victoria waited, looking diminished in civilian clothes, her once immaculate appearance now showing signs of neglect. The confidence and arrogance that had once defined her had been replaced by something harder and more desperate. "You've redecorated," Victoria observed bitterly. "Erased every trace of what we built." "We've transformed," Jasmine corrected. "Created something better than what existed before." Victoria's laugh held no humor. "You think you've won completely, don't you? The triumphant victim who took down the big bad airline and its prejudiced employees. Did you ever consider that? My actions came from trying to maintain standards in an industry where they constantly erode." "Standards shouldn't depend on what a passenger looks like," Jasmine replied evenly. "And safety isn't achieved by falsifying records or targeting certain passengers for removal." For a moment, Victoria's mask slipped, revealing the raw pain beneath. "You have no idea what it took for me to succeed in this industry. 30 years of fighting to be taken seriously, of watching less qualified people advance because they fit a certain profile. Then you waltz in and take everything I worked for in 7 months. Your success came at the expense of people like me," Jasmine said quietly. "And in the end, it wasn't sustainable. The airline was failing under that model, financially, culturally, and ethically." Victoria stared out the window at the transformed lobby below, where employees of various backgrounds moved purposefully through their day. "You can change the furniture and the policies, but people don't change their fundamental beliefs. This won't last." "It already is lasting," Jasmine countered. "Our performance metrics prove that inclusion and innovation aren't just moral imperatives, they're good business. The industry is noticing." Indeed, they were. 3 other regional carriers had approached SkyTech about implementing similar technology platforms. Trade publications that had once questioned Jasmine's acquisition now featured case studies on Horizon's remarkable turnaround. Most significantly, Global Aviation Partners had approached her about potential implementation across their other subsidiaries. Victoria's shoulders slumped in defeat. "Why did you agree to see me today? To gloat?" "To offer closure," Jasmine replied. "For both of us. You're still serving your community service hours with the Anti-Discrimination Coalition, correct?" Victoria nodded reluctantly. "The program director tells me you have valuable insights into how discrimination operates in corporate environments. That despite your resistance, you've helped them identify blind spots in their training." "Survival mechanism," Victoria muttered. "Give them what they want to hear." "Or perhaps you're finally seeing things from a different perspective," Jasmine suggested. "Either way, when your service hours are complete, there's a role in our compliance department if you want it. Not leadership, but a chance to use your experience constructively." Victoria's head snapped up in shock. "You can't be serious. After everything?" "Transformation isn't just about replacing people. It's about allowing people to transform themselves," Jasmine said. "The choice is yours." Later that afternoon, Jasmine stood before all Horizon employees in the company's largest hangar. Aircraft maintenance temporarily paused for this milestone announcement. Beside her stood Mark Chen, Thomas Davidson, and other key figures who had supported her journey. Noticeably absent was Dr. Eleanor Johnson, who had succumbed to her illness 2 months prior, but whose vision and mentorship had made this moment possible. 7 months ago, I boarded a Horizon Airlines flight as a passenger, and was removed because I didn't fit someone's image of who belonged in premium economy," Jasmine began, her voice carrying across the hushed space. "Today, I stand before you as the owner of that same airline, not to announce more changes but to reveal their results." Behind her, massive screens displayed the data, dramatic improvements in safety metrics, customer satisfaction, employee retention, and financial performance. The algorithmic maintenance system had prevented 3 potential major incidents. On-time performance had improved from among the worst in the industry to the top quartile. Most importantly, employee satisfaction had risen across all demographics. Today, we unveil not just a new name, logo, and livery, Jasmine continued, but a new model for what an airline can be. Inclusive Air isn't just a rebranding of Horizon, it's a fundamental reimagining of air travel where technology and humanity enhance rather than oppose each other. As the new logo was revealed, a stylized horizon with diverse color elements, representing both inclusion and innovation, applause spread through the hangar. 7 months of uncertainty and change were crystallizing into a shared vision of the future. The first aircraft featuring the new livery was scheduled to depart that evening, Flight 372 to San Francisco, the very route and flight number where Jasmine's journey had begun. In a fitting symmetry, she would be aboard, not as a passenger, fighting for her rightful seat, but as the owner checking on customer experience. As preparations for the inaugural flight concluded, Jasmine took a moment alone in her office, reflecting on the improbable journey from discrimination to ownership. On her desk sat a framed photo of Dr. Eleanor Johnson, alongside the original viral video thumbnail, reminders of both the catalyst and the guidance that had made transformation possible. Her phone chimed with a message from Thomas Davidson. "Inclusive Air stock up 3% on rebranding news. Industry watching closely. You didn't just acquire an airline, you're redefining what one can be." That evening, as Jasmine boarded Flight 372 through the same gate where she had once been publicly humiliated, she was greeted by a flight attendant whose name badge included pronouns and who addressed her with genuine warmth. The passengers represented diverse backgrounds, the crew reflected similar diversity, and the atmosphere exuded both professionalism and humanity. Taking her seat, the same premium economy seat she had been denied 7 months earlier, Jasmine glimpsed Victoria Carlson in the terminal, watching the boarding process with an unreadable expression. Their eyes met briefly across the distance, the past and future of aviation regarding each other in a moment of silent acknowledgement before the cabin door closed, and Inclusive Air Flight 372 prepared for takeoff into clearer skies. This story teaches us that true justice isn't about revenge, but transformation. Jasmine could have settled for personal vindication or financial compensation, but she recognized an opportunity to address systemic problems at their root. 3. Journey illustrates that discrimination doesn't just harm individuals, it undermines entire organizations by preventing merit-based decision-making and creating toxic cultures. When confronted with injustice, we have choices. We can walk away, seek personal compensation, or work towards systemic change. The hardest path often creates the most meaningful impact. The story also highlights the power of evidence and documentation in fighting discrimination. Every video, email, and testimony strengthened Jasmine's position against a powerful opponent. Her success came not just from moral righteousness, but from strategic thinking, coalition building, and technological innovation. She understood that lasting change requires both ethical vision and practical execution. Perhaps most importantly, Jasmine's story reminds us that transformation isn't about replacing one group of people with another, but creating systems where everyone can contribute based on merit rather than appearance. True inclusion isn't just morally right, it's also good business, improving safety, customer satisfaction, and financial performance simultaneously. What discrimination have you witnessed or experienced that could be addressed through systemic change rather than individual punishment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Has someone in your life shown Jasmine's level of resilience in the face of discrimination? Tag them and let them know how much you admire their strength. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspirational stories about overcoming injustice and creating positive change in the world. Remember, transformation begins with awareness. Your story matters.